Hello, are you ready for more? Then let's get started. I want to talk today about cuffing, the concept of cuffing versus cuffing season. So where we're going to land is actually cuffing season, but I just want to give a little bit of information about some of the history with cuffing. It's not a new phenomenon. People have been doing what we call arranged marriages forever and a day. And arranged marriages are two people that enter this very intimate type of situation. And initially, it has nothing to do with love. And that sounds strange. But they come into these sort of settings because of societal pressures, family pressures. It could be that there's some sort of duty or obligation, or there's something going on, some sort of problem that brings the two people together. Whatever the reason, the situation is not entered into because of love, even though it's a very intimate situation. So there are places like India, Pakistan, parts of Africa, places like that that have practiced cuffing forever. And the partners don't choose each other because they love each other, but rather their parents or the elders, they select the partners for each other. And sometimes it's just to consolidate the wealth, or it's for social status or whatever. And then there are situations in the Bible where it happened. So it was very common in the Bible. You might remember where Isaac's servant picked Isaac's partner for him. Jacob had to marry Leah because she was the oldest. And then Tamar was supposed to get married to, I believe it was Laban. Laban's third son was supposed to marry Tamar because her first two husbands, or his first two sons, died and did not give her children. So those are arranged marriages. That's actually cuffing. And then here in America, we have immigrants that want citizenship, and so they marry an American. We even have this program called, it's actually a reality show, and it's called Married at First Sight. And these experts go from state to state, and they use all of this scientific data, and they match these couples. Supposedly they're compatible for each other, but the very first time that the partners see each other or talk to each other is at the altar when they're about to get married. And so some of them enter it and they hope for love, while others, it seems like they just kind of want the experience. But for whatever reason, they're not necessarily choosing each other because of love. So that's just a little bit of history on the concept of cuffing, to let you know that it's been around forever, because sometimes we might look down on people that practice cuffing or really subscribe to the cuffing season, but the concept is not new. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make. So let's talk about cuffing season. Just because it's wintertime, it's that cold part of the year where a lot of single people are feeling pressured to be in relationships, and they're feeling lonely, and they just kind of want someone to cuddle up with, someone to go to some of these family functions with them so they don't have to deal with the pressures of being single. They want someone for good photo shoots and that type thing. So for those reasons, they enter into these very intimate type of arrangements. It has nothing to do with love. Casual sex is a part of the bargain. And on top of that, the agreement is it's not necessarily emotional. So we're not going to have any emotional ties to each other. We're cuffing because we're lonely and it's cold outdoors. And that season usually lasts like 5 or 6 months. It happens right around let's say October, and then it lasts up until the spring when they uncuff. And so we know that there's various types of relationships. There's financial, intellectual, emotional, physical. There's even experiential relationships. And if you saw the movie Friends with Benefits with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunin, I believe was her name, both of them realized that they had emotional issues, right? And so they agree to enter into this relationship with no emotional ties whatsoever, and that it was just going to be a sexual type of arrangement. And then you know what happens if you saw it, because it's an old movie. Boundaries get crossed, feelings get entangled, which they almost always do. She wants him to meet her parents, and he wants to take her home to his family. And so the relationship starts getting complicated, even though both of them agree that it would only be sexual. But it never, almost never, ever ends that way for both people. Sometimes one person can pull that off, but very rarely does that happen for both people, where they uncuff then and make a clean break, and no one's feelings are hurt, no one's heart is broken, there were no unmet expectations. It very rarely happens that way. So just know that intimate relationships brings challenges, and especially when boundaries are crossed or when someone's boundaries are not honored. So cuffing, I would say, is a type of relationship that falls into that experiential type of category, because both of them are experiencing loneliness. Both of them are just wanting someone to kind of snuggle up with. And since they're having the same experience, they choose to get together. But what role does your relationship really play for you? And then how do you cultivate the different dimensions in a relationship if your boundaries are not made clear, if your expectations are not made clear, and you're not being forthright about what you're really wanting from the relationship? Because what happens is that a lot of people say, we'll just enter this for sexual purposes, or just because both of us are lonely and we want the company. But then secretly or underneath there's truly this desire to cultivate a fulfilling relationship. So you need to be clear on what role your relationship is truly playing. And then how do you prioritize intimacy when one of you may not really be interested in developing a fulfilling relationship? Because connection does not happen by chance. And it doesn't happen just because the two of you are within proximity. It takes time, intention, and investment on both parties in the relationship. And usually, the deeper the level of connection, the more mutually satisfying the relationship. So my question to you is, are you truly satisfied with what you're getting? Or are you secretly trying to enhance the quality of this cuffing arrangement and build a lasting bond? What are you expecting from your relationship? And if cuffing season does not produce what you expect, is it time for you to start treating, or at least consider treating, the soil that you're trying to grow this arrangement, this relationship in? We were created for connection. That is, people are created for relationships. Connection automatically releases this hormone. And let me back up for just a second. For those of you that don't know, I am a mental health therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I do this for a living. I have talked with numbers of couples and people that deal with these type of relationship issues. So I'm just trying to skim the surface a little bit. This is not a counseling session. It's not supposed to take the place of, whatever you do with your therapist. I'm just trying to present an ideal to you and another way of thinking about things. So we were born for connection. That's just how we were made. Connection releases this hormone called oxytocin. We often call that the bonding hormone because it helps you attach to other people. It's especially released when there's physical connection, and that could be eye contact, that could be cuddling, that could be hand holding, kissing, and especially sex. So, to all my men out there, does that help you understand why you need sex to feel loved? Because sex releases oxytocin and it makes you feel bonded. It makes you feel loved. And some men may even say, while they're having sex or right after they're having sex, they may even say, I love you. And they may mean it at the time. But what's actually speaking is that hormone, that feel good that's been released. And because this is the person that I'm doing this thing with, I feel like I love them. But it's a temporary type. It doesn't last forever. So you really can't build a relationship on that. But anyway, if you deal with seasonal depression, you may swear by these short-term relationships. And clinically, there is a benefit to them. So there's another hormone called serotonin. It's actually a neurotransmitter, but it's a hormone as well. And when it's used as a mood stabilizer, it produces happiness and calmness and focus. It's another one of those feel-good type of chemicals. And when I was doing my research, per the Cleveland Clinic, serotonin plays a key role in sexual desire. Now, the body only produces serotonin when certain foods are consumed, but lowering your stress level increases your serotonin level. And because relationships, being cared for and caring for someone else produces a level of comfort, it actually helps increase your serotonin levels. So you may find yourself truthfully saying, it doesn't matter to me that it's temporary. I just feel better when I'm with someone. And now you know why. Because your serotonin level is being increased as you care for someone or as someone cares for you. But then my question to you is, at what cost are you feeling better? So to be fair, your body does not know that you're in a temporary arrangement. So cuffing is beneficial in that regards. Connection helps you experience both oxytocin and it raises your serotonin level. But since bonding and emotional connection is not a part of the agreement for cuffing season, what happens when you're really wanting attachment and he doesn't, or vice versa? It could be him that's wanting it and she doesn't. But what happens when the other partner says, and they truly have a right to say, I didn't sign up for this, or I don't owe you that. We didn't come into this trying to bond or trying to have an emotional connection. What happens then? So this type of short-term arrangement may actually be setting you up for long-term disappointment. Men have sex to feel loved. Women generally need to feel loved before we have sex. So if underlying the agreed upon arrangement, you're secretly desiring love and emotional attachment and mental connection, and there may be some fear or some uncertainty about how those things would be received if you actually communicated those, or you may feel a little insecurity about saying it. Just know that unspoken needs do not get met. Unclear intentions may not get met because relationships do not happen by chance. Connection does not happen by chance. It's intentional. So society says that cuffing up is beneficial, but that's not how God designed intimacy. Can you reach a quality level of love in a cuffed up arrangement? And it could be that quality relationship is not what you're looking for. That may not be your goal. Maybe you're completely satisfied with just the semblance of love. But to maintain this very temporary relationship, if you're the nurturer, and assuming your relationship is sexual, you're giving away precious parts of yourself to the other person who cannot cherish it and will not value it because that's not what they came to you for. And because that's not a part of the agreement, and because women generally need love before they have sex, but you're already having it, she would have to convince herself that whatever little pieces of emotion or whatever little piece of attention she's getting from him or whatever little interest he's showing in her, she has to convince herself that that is a demonstration of love. So then she feels okay engaging in the sexual part. It's an indication of your standards. And so, how often will you participate in this type of agreement? The desire might be to cuff up with the same partner year after year. But what happens when the person you cuffed up with last season, the last cuffing season, what happens when they're not available for this round? Do you find another cuffing partner? So let me ask you this. Are you truly okay just being chosen because you're available? Are you okay with just being a snuggle buddy? Just being a bed warmer? Are you okay with just being a placeholder until he walks away and finds a permanent, intimate partner? So we probably need to talk a little bit about standards. Standards are set by the early childhood caregivers in our life and the adults that were in our life. We get our standards from the messages that we received from them. So we learn at a very early age what's our worth. And unfortunately, sometimes the messages that we receive, they don't necessarily give us a proper estimation of ourselves. And as much as we hate to admit it, when that estimation of ourselves is not high, it's low self-esteem. We don't want to call it that, but that's what it is. It's low self-esteem. And trust me when I say this, because I can talk to you about low self-esteem until the cows come home. I've been there and I've done that. And I got the receipts to prove it. Low self-esteem does not always look like what we think it looks like. So just know that when you're okay being a placeholder, or just being a snuggle buddy, or being chosen just because you're available, low self-esteem plays a huge role in that. And since I said that our self-esteem comes from our caregivers and whoever it was that provided our care when we were children, let me add this to their defense. It's not that they were necessarily trying to be malicious. They wasn't necessarily always trying to hurt us. But people are human. And just because they have their issues going, and sometimes they didn't deal with their issues. Sometimes they just don't get it right. So regardless of how much they loved us, and regardless of how well they provided for us, we have to admit sometimes that they failed us. And that's okay. It's not an indictment against your parents or against your caregivers. It's just the honest truth that sometimes people fail us for whatever reason. So even though you may have been kind and responsible and loving and strong and thorough and intelligent, there may not have been any worth put on those attributes. Those attributes may have been ignored, and that communicated to you that those attributes didn't really matter. Or it could be that the attention those attributes brought to you were negative, or the attention was painful. That also communicated something to you. You kind of want to avoid being thorough. You kind of want to avoid being loving and kind. So it communicated something to you so that you didn't put a lot of worth on those attributes. And I just named a few. We know we have many, many attributes. So when our experiences seem to confirm a low price tag on our values, then it appears that we have nothing to bargain with. And naturally, if somebody's willing to give you what you need, despite the fact that you don't have much to bargain with and you don't have much of value, then of course you're willing to make that exchange with them. So we also learned very early on how to connect with those in our environments. So while it's true that you have to give before you get, you have to remember that most people want something for nothing. Have you ever went and purchased something and you were promised, well, if you buy this, you'll get this one free. Or if you upgrade to this and you're going to get, and it seems so valuable that it's worth it. Or, all kind of gimmicks that we see out in the world of commerce that kind of lures you into, let me go ahead and make this little investment because I'm going to get X, Y, and Z for free. The same thing happens in relationships. Everybody wants something for free. And I mean, that's to their benefit. But you have to know that every person on the face of this earth holds valuable goods. You have something of value, whether it's the ability to understand complex things, or the fun that you like to have, or the peace that you bring to relationships, or the strength that you impart, or the skills that you learned along the way, the joy that you share, whatever it is, you have something valuable. And when you realize it, you won't sell yourself short. You have to put value on those things. Because whether or not you realize it, You enter relationships negotiating for what you need. So given that knowledge, each person has to assess the trade. Is what I'm getting worth the price that you're asking me to pay? But when you have not attached an equitable value to your assets, the buyer can convince you that your goods are practically worthless. The buyer, your partner, your lover, whomever they are, they can convince you that you really don't have much to work with. And when you're convinced of that, you will sell your precious pearls to pigs. And then you'll sit back and cry as you watch them trash them because they can't value them, because they lack the capacity to value them. Cuffing up doesn't work efficiently because that's not how God designed intimacy. And don't believe that movie, Friends with Benefits. I believe her name was Jamie. She stated in the movie that she was emotionally damaged. And she attracted a man who admitted that he was emotionally unavailable. And for all intents and purposes, it seemed like, well, then they would be a good match because emotionally, he's in a bad place and she's in a bad place. But in terms of relationships, two broken parts do not make a whole. On the contrary, hurting people hurt people. So while the caregivers and the adults in your life may have failed you, it's now up to you as an adult to admit where you're lacking and then do your work to heal those wounded places. Don't ignore them or don't try to hide them. It's what made you the beautiful person that you are right now. You have to think enough of yourself to invest in you. Invest in your mental and your emotional health. You're worth it. It's worth it. So when I was doing my research, I read this article that greatly supported the cuffing season. So I read many articles, so I'm probably combining some of them. But they offered these encouraging words. And I could really say this facetiously because, well, maybe they were encouraged, maybe they are encouraging to someone, but they offered these words. You can survive the perils of these less than ideal situations that create potentially soul-crushing times. You may have to have a good cry to cleanse your soul or embrace being a single queen, but you can restore your hope in love and romance. So, while all of those efforts may be necessary, you may have to have a good cry and you may find your cuffing up season soul crushing. Their encouragement to me offered very little in terms of real solutions. There's no shortcut to really getting what you want in relationships. You have to do your work to heal. So would it not be more beneficial to address the underlying issues that prevent true connection versus trying to ignore it and then just hoping you're going to stumble up on love, or hoping love is just going to happen in spite of. If you can't figure out why you keep attracting painful relationships, then get a therapist who can help you unlayer, kind of peel back the issues that keep you from having healthy relationships and developing healthy habits. The ultimate relationship connection is obtained when both parties accept each other's authentic selves, flaws and all, when they can support one another, help each other grow, and because they love each other so deeply, they shield one another from outside attacks. They're not creating, especially not intentionally, they're not creating pain and wounds and all of that to their partner. No, they're actually like this in that relationship. They've connected, they've bonded. And so they shield each other from whatever outside negativity that may come their way, or may try to threaten their relationship. And while this connection, this type of connection, stretches both parties, it's passionate and it's intentional and it's fulfilling. Yes, it requires vulnerability and it requires commitment, but it's worth it. The results of such a relationship is truly worth it. And it's available for you if you're willing to do the work to get it. So I'm not passing judgment on anyone, as I said before, and I'm not trying to convince you not to cuff up. If cuffing up is your thing, I say go for it and enjoy it. But I just want you to consider the cost of cuffing up. If your cuffing up season has failed, who's there to mend your broken heart after you've given of yourself? Are you just increasing your body count? Are you truly satisfied with these type of arrangements? Are the cuffing seasons producing what you expect? And are you truly okay with being chosen just because you're available and not necessarily because you're a good match? So I'm going to sign off right here. And I want you to hold that thought until you're ready for more. And in the meantime, let's heal on purpose.